here is that it doubled revenue or it quadrupled revenue, and they come and say, "Wow, I want to double." And all right, let's go. And, but how
that's why they hired you, right? Hello and welcome to episode 115 of Rockstar CMO FM. The M is the marketing and the F is for, well, you decide. As you're probably wondering, does the world need another effing marketing podcast? I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm no rockstar, but I've picked up a thing or two over the last 20 years on my tour from techie to CMO and trusted advisor. And each week I chat to the true rockstars, my fabulous guests and chums, and hopefully share some marketing street knowledge that will inspire the Rockstar CMO in you. Come and say hello. We are Rockstar CMO on Twitter and LinkedIn, and proud members of the Marketing Podcast Network. This episode was recorded on Friday the 20th of May. I hope you've had a good week and you are well, safe, and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. This week, Jeff Clark and I chat about our new kid on the acronym block, PLG. My guest is an author and CEO of Strategy Sprints, Simon Severino, and I wind down the week in the Rockstar CMO virtual bar with Robert Rose for a cocktail and a marketing talk. But first, we need to play the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the Boys Club of Advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
On to our first segment. Recently, I've been thinking about a new acronym, PLG, Product-Led Growth. I wrote an article about it, but who better to ask and share that conversation with you than my chum, former Serious Decisions Forrester Research Director and sought-after Rockstar Marketing and Strategy Advisor, Jeff Clark. Welcome back, Jeff, to Rockstar CMO FM. How are you, my friend?
I am doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. Thank you very much. The weather is quite lovely right now. We've had some rain, but we have a blue shining sky, and it's 6:30 in the evening for me. So how are you? How's your weather?
Well, we are having an unusually cold, rainy snap, and it has been warm. And this weekend, it is going to get up, believe it or not, in Massachusetts in May, near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's we're having some wacky swings in our weather, but today we're fortunately getting some rain for our gardens. Well,
jolly good. So that's the first order of business sorted out. We've done the weather. So the next thing we want to talk about is I actually have been writing things. Which is rare for me recently. I haven't written very much.
You've been busy.
I haven't written very much on my blog or anywhere recently, which is pretty poor. But I was inspired by a new term that I learned, and I know how we love to talk about marketing acronyms on this show. I learned about PLG and product-led growth. Something that I think first came about from Open Ventures, who started it. I read an article by them, but also the interesting article got me hooked, which was, I can't remember, I think it was on VentureBeat or some,
It was
on VentureBeat. Was a chap called Michael Litt, co-founder and CEO of Vidyard, the video platform, and he described it as an acronym that will transform software. So I thought, well, I better pay attention to this. So I started going through it, and I wrote an article. But I thought, as I have, one of the four thinkers of this kind of thing, Serious Decisions Forrester Research Director, appears on this show every week. I thought I'd ask the question, what say you, Jeff?
Oh my gosh. My first, when I read your blog and was thinking about this, my first thought was, okay, the engineers, they want to get rid of marketing. They want to get rid of sales. They want to, these people we spend way too much money on, and we're just going to have the product sell itself. And and so, and then I thought, well, gosh, I use a couple of these products, that follow this, and actually have for a while. But it's certainly Zoom's a big one that is. I mean, right now it's because of the pandemic. It's just absolutely pervasive. And yes, I kicked in the extra money to buy a license so that I could control my own Zoom experience. But Slack and Google Apps and Dropbox and this box and that box. I mean, it's so I think that there's there's definitely a place for this concept. The question I would have is this a comprehensive business model, or is this a tactic that is somewhat bound by the types of products it could be successful for?
Yeah, maybe I should back up a little bit just for the folks that aren't sort of B2B tech SaaS marketers out there. This is the idea that your product is your marketing, right? Is that you hook people in with a freemium model. You offer them just enough features to be vaguely useful. They share it with everybody and start using it. And then you have a subscription model when you start to pay the monthlies. And as you say, folks like Zoom, Slack, and Dropbox have been sort of the leaders in this kind of way of working. And the idea is that you actually put a lot more investment in your products than you do in your marketing, which is what I kind of read between the lines on there. So as you were saying there, I mean, we've all done it, right? So, for example, I did the same with Zoom. I did that. But one of the things I found was quite interesting is the way that this has the way that it's become a sort of like a Trojan horse into the enterprise, right? Is that you and I have been around for a while. We've worked with vendors and we've advised vendors that and a lot of them want to be in the enterprise. I'm using air quotes here, right? But it seems to me that folks like Slack and Zoom have been incredibly successful in cracking that enterprise thing by taking this different model in, isn't it? It's a user-centric, bottom-up model rather than the traditional model of trying to crack the CIO and convincing him that he needs to buy 1,000 licenses.
Yeah. And then trying to, once you have enough users within an organization or just across, a certain demographic, then all of a sudden you go to the upselling of, if I'm a Dropbox and in Dropbox now there's workflow or there's enterprise versions that integrate with other, enterprise applications, et cetera. And so I think Zoom, I've been on Zooms, which actually were a Microsoft platform that was basically a Microsoft private labeled Zoom with some additional features and functions. And it's like, and so it is, you're trying to seed the public or seed an organization, and then you work your way up, which is one of the reasons I asked the question: is it a comprehensive business model or a tactic? Because as a comprehensive business model, I think a lot of these organizations are trying to, get in and then move up, as opposed to what Microsoft does, which is like sell the CIO and then push everything down. Or like an IBM, you're an IBM shop, you're an Oracle shop, you're this. And so now every lousy little utility we have is yours. And which the user base in a company, I mean, it's like we always hated that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I apologize because, you asked the question and I walked back and then we didn't face it. But you're absolutely right. But I think it has to be a business model, right? For a specific kind of tool, right? It can't be a tactic because you need to be baking that into your software and having this whole concept as your go-to-market strategy as a startup or a growth strategy with an existing tool, wouldn't you? You'd have to have everybody on board. The development, operations, your commercial would have to fit around it, and God forbid if you did allow it to do some marketing would have to work with it as well, right? So yes, it's and also from a marketer's perspective, you're really focusing on a different audience, aren't you? Whereas traditionally with an enterprise product, you'd be targeting the VPs and directors and CMOs, or at least we believe we're talking to CMOs. I mean, very rarely they're the actual buyer. But you're now targeting individual users, aren't you?
Yeah, and so I guess one of the things to think back. I know maybe the way I phrase the question of business model versus tactic is there's both a middle ground where it's obviously it's more of a business strategy, but one of the things to think about is for these companies is it something that is that basically is how the entire business operates, and then in that eventually all these companies, as they want to grow and get bigger and they have multiple products, then they say, oh well, now there's the suite, okay, now there's the package that the IT department can manage. Now there's so that's, to me, it's a way of gaining entry. That's an excellent strategy, and typically you start trying to either move your way up, or I think one of the other things is because one of the other questions I have is like so where doesn't it work? And so there's some obvious like it doesn't work if you're Caterpillar selling tractors, or it doesn't work if you're whatever selling automobiles. You're not going to get the free auto, and then we're going to upgrade you to the truck. But as I remember being in enterprise software companies, we often talked about, and I can't remember any examples where we're terribly successful, but we always talked about in-product marketing. So there's okay, I've got a product that I've sold an enterprise license for, and there are things that I should be able to sell, whether it's additional support services, events, user conferences, blah, 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 all these things that are helpful to the consumer. And I should be using the product itself to get those communications out, or get the the buyer more involved. Because I think ultimately what this leads us to is just some people who are thinking more holistic, which is like one of the concluding points of your article. People thinking more holistically about the entire experience, from how I'm promoting and getting new customers through early use cases, adoption, ramping up, and eventually taking people to purchasing and renewals. So you're thinking about an entire life cycle with a customer, where the product, the selling, and the marketing are not so. They're not three separate silos. It's a unified process, both internally and for what the customer experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing we were talking about was about does it work with all different kinds of software? And I think that your point at the beginning of what you were just saying about about whether it applies to all products. I think the idea that the user is actually considered as user advocacy as part of retaining customers is important. And I think even in the old days of monolithic proprietary software that was on premise, you knew that if the user didn't like it, and I've seen many instances that in CMS in the olden days when I was selling that, if the user didn't like it, okay, so it's a 3-year death march, but it's not going to stick. But now with SaaS, it's a 3 months death march, isn't it? If the users don't like it, then it's not going.
They're ditching it.
Yeah. So one of the things that we kind of little chatted about before I hit record was is where does this fit? Because now we've got our wonderful 5 effing fundamentals of marketing. Where does it fit in our world of what we've been describing recently?
I like your emphasis on the effing of all the F's you were talking about. But, if you go back to our fundamentals, brand, market research, storytelling, customer journeys, operations, I think, you made the point that it's like, it is the entire customer journey. The user is the king. And so you need to know, what's the post-download experience, what's the purchasing journey, what's the renewal journey, and how am I able to manage or not manage? Am I able to measure, adoption, usage, so all those things that would help me use the product in a way that can take the customer either to another level or to just being able to use it more regularly. Because I think one of the challenges of the free products, and I for a period of time I was using Slack almost every day, but it's free. And I don't know, with particular groups that I was, there was sort of fall off on usage, and then so all of a sudden, I'm not using it anymore. It's still on my desktop, but I'm not using it, and so I'm not going to get to that next level. So it's like, where in the journey can the people from Slack actually help, pull me back in, or make sure that the product has something that's going to keep me engaged with it as the nature of my use changes. So that's just thinking about the journeys. But I think that when you think of all the other 5 fundamentals, there's a role for each of them.
Right. So let's go through those. Let's start with brand. I mean, they're going to need to know something about us, right, before they do their first download or the 5th download or whatever it is, right?
Because the customers need to know what you're about. I mean, it's like, I mean, I heard about Slack for probably, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years before I really got what it was about. So there was a group of people out there who heard and got the value proposition, and a lot of them were tied into engineering teams. Matter of fact, I think that's where I first heard about it, is that people were trying to automate communication or enable more communication within a department, and it's like, hey, well, the engineering team's got Slack, so let's just pick up on that license, and now we're all using it, and that's and that's how it gets going. But you've got to have that brand has to it gets sunk in your head as to, that's the product that's about this, and it's about productivity, and it's about communication and teams, and as I'm using it, that's being reinforced by my experience.
Right. So that's brand. So the next one of our effing marketing fundamentals is research. We still got to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that because whether it's for the product or your communications, you need to know, what's the customer need, what's their, how do they think and talk about this? Where are we going to find them? Because you got to build your messaging that it's both going to be in the product, and it's also going to be by the promotion, and that has got to be, they have to be in sync, because one of the things, and I certainly had experience with talking to customers who had issues. It's like, we bought the tool, or we got the tool because it was free. We're using it in the team. And matter of fact, I know some customers who were like, trying to come up with some early calendaring, team productivity, kind of light marketing resource management, keeping track of projects. And it's like, they get disappointed because it's like, well, I thought it did this, or I thought it, I thought it did some of these other things. And so if your messaging is out of line, and the way the product is built is out of line with the expectations you're setting for your customer, which, I mean, there's like dozens of online calendar tools out there that are, all about your productivity and blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you run into a roadblock, all of a sudden you've lost. Now you go back to brand. It's like we lost that trust. Yeah. So you got to do your research to really know what your customers are going to be expecting and what the needs are.
As usual, we're trotting through the time. So the third one, storytelling, I think is related to brand, isn't it? We still need to be able to tell the story of what the benefit of this is, even if it's a fairly small tool at the beginning. You still need to get understood of where it is you're going, what it is.
Yeah, because you're guiding your prospects and your free users through their journey. So you got to tell the story about what this is about. And I remember talking to people at Box about kind of an integrated campaign approach, and they looked at me like I was like, be organized and be where this was years ago for anybody from Box. So they had changed their ways along the way, but it's like it's like they were just so used to, people just download the product and then they go, and then that's it. And it's like, well, but there's you got to tell them more than that, because otherwise, again, you're going to leave them wanting.
Yeah, and then we talked about the fourth fundamental, which is customer journeys. And the vital part there, I think, is that we consider as a joint team with marketing and product development and with the operations guy beyond the sale, right? It's that next part, the loyalty loop part, if we look at a McKinsey model, is then almost the most important, isn't it? And that's really the focus of this whole acronym, isn't it? Is that focus on the loyalty loop. So customer journey is still important. And then if we move on to marketing operations, I mean, this is vital, isn't it?
It's more than important than ever, because every decision's got to be data driven. So you got to get the data, gather the data on adoption, usage, engagement. You got to know what to do with it. You got to be able to report on it. And so, yes, and you can go to our last episode about talking about operations and get but it is, to me, this is where it's and this is where also you could think about, marketing operations, product operations, even sales ops it's more important than they are unified in their viewing this information as one.
But this is also where it's key to work with the product, right? Because if you've got a SaaS product, you've got an incredibly large amount of data at your disposal, should you decide to use it, about usage statistics, which features people are using, how much they use it every day. It becomes part of your marketing dashboard almost.
And the product people need to make sure that this information is accessible.
Yeah. So I think in conclusion, I think that the idea of the product being part of your go-to-market strategy is positive, right? But absolutely. But should we be calling it product-led growth? I mean, when I first saw the acronym, it frightened me, because I thought of all those years that I've spent in product marketing or in marketing, where you have some bright CTO, CIO developer going, I just need more features. More features will win. And more features, sadly, doesn't win.
They'll sell itself.
And people of a certain vintage then reach back and talk about Betamax and things like that.
Yes, yeah.
But I won't explain that to the younger listeners. They can go look that up.
It's BETAMAX.
So what's our conclusion there, Jeff?
I think, and this is one of the things that we talked about at Forrester Serious Decisions all the time. The alignment of product, marketing, and sales, is, three different functions, but the integration and the alignment across those, I should say more the alignment than the integration, is absolutely essential for really the success of any organization. And this is just taking it to a much higher level, because you are marketing and selling through the product as well as outside of it.
Yeah, cool. And the third part, so we've done the weather, we've now done the topic. Our third point of our agenda is, what tune are you choosing this week, Jeff?
Well, I'm gonna, I know it's not Halloween time, but I'm gonna go back to Smashing Pumpkins song called Tonight. There, I was thinking about you're trying to deliver something, you're trying to get somebody to believe in you, you're trying to develop a relationship. So the song Tonight talks about believe in me as I believe in you. And that's what that's what Slack's trying to do to me right now.
Splendid. Well, I love it. So I'll play up with Tonight from Smashing Pumpkins in 1995. And will you be back next week?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. And do we know what we're going to talk about yet?
I think we have a new topic. We're going to talk about winning in a transitioning market.
Nice. And I think that's going to be an article that you're going to write, hopefully.
Yes.
All right, Jeff. I'll see you next week. Have a good one, my friend.
Hasta luego.
Thank you, Jeff. And that was Tonight by the Smashing Pumpkins from 1995. What do you think of PLG? If you have any feedback or suggestions, we'd love to hear them. We are Rockstar CMO on the socials, or drop us an email at hello@rockstarcmo.com. Right, on to my guest. Simon Severino is an author and CEO of Strategy Sprints. He helps business owners in SaaS and services run their companies more effectively, which results in sales that soar by getting owners out of the weeds through his Strategy Sprints method. His team is trusted by Google, Roche, Amgen, AbbVie, and hundreds of frontier teams. He hosts his Strategy Sprints podcast, is a TEDx speaker, writes for Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine, and is now on Rockstar CMO FM. Hope you enjoy this conversation. Welcome, Simon, to Rockstar CMO FM. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Excited to be here.
Yeah, splendid to have you. And Simon, for folks that have not come across you before, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Simon Severino, since 21 years doing only one thing. I'm here to help entrepreneurs double their revenue in 90 days. Have done nothing else the last 21 years. I love it. I changed everything about how I do it. Of course, it became digital, but that's what I do. I'm here to serve entrepreneurs, double their revenue, regain their time back, and that's what I do.
And you've always been in sales?
Always in scaling of business. And in there, in some years, we had different challenges like balanced scorecard or how to steer the whole thing. And but over the last 11 years, the inside of the whole scaling and go-to-market area, what people have needed most from me was literally sales. And so,
and growth.
That's what they need right now. The oxygen.
The oxygen. I love it. Yeah. And so at the moment you run a consultancy called Strategy Sprints. Tell us a bit about that. I mean, is that just you or have you got a team working with you?
It started as me helping people double revenue. And now we are a global team. We come together every Monday. We discuss each marketing number, sales number, and ops numbers of every client. And the coaches, the certified Strategy Sprints coaches, they are from Singapore to Los Angeles and in London and in between.
Right. Cool. And it sounds like from the research we did, it sounds like you've got like a little franchise model where you certify these guys. Do they all have their own, you're enabling them to have their own business, presumably, right?
Exactly. So we are like the Avengers team. Everybody has their superpower. They can do their fight on their own, but together we are the best because when we bring those superpowers together, that's magic, and we enjoy that. Nice. And the clients, of course, have the best because they get exactly what they need. Some of us has scaled exactly that in that situation, in that structure, in that complexity, in that continent, and so they get what they need right now.
I like it. And that's often a challenge, isn't it, for people when they come up with a methodology and they're doing things on their own, like you were at first. And how do you grow your agency? So you've grown it through coaching and this franchise model, right? Rather than, or have you hired a huge team? How did you scale your business?
Yeah, so I was the bottleneck of my own business because I think it was around 500,000 per year in revenue that I just couldn't do more. I just couldn't fly more. I'm either in Paris or I'm in Singapore. I cannot be in both cities. And so I had to change two things about my business model. First, from workshop to it works wherever you are. It works everywhere right now. And that was easy because of technology. So now it works on every phone, wherever you are. It's like Spider-Man and his guy in the chair. Hey, what should I do? Says Spider-Man. Give me a second. Do this. That was the technological innovation that I had to do. The second one was a business model innovation. I had to fire Simon from operations. Simon is not bookable as a coach anymore.
Right.
Because somebody has to run the business at some point. You cannot always solve the problems of others. At some point, you have to solve also your problems.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it, for entrepreneurs? They've got to do one or the other. Either they hire somebody to be their boss and do the operations, right? Or they have to fire themselves from that role and fire themselves from the delivery role and have other people do the delivery. So you've taken that route where you've decided to own the business and be the business owner rather than the person delivering the work.
Yeah, that's the most fun, of course. And because then you move from being the hunter to being a gardener. And the gardener is the cool thing. Now my day is amazing. I have workouts every day. I play with my kids every day. I am in nature every day. And we are helping business owners save 10 to 14 hours per week of their time, plus doubling their revenue in 90 days. And this whole thing from the comfort of my garden here in Vienna. How cool is that? That was the goal, yes, to have something that I can really rely on. It's repeatable. It works like a charm independently of me. Every Monday we come together. I coach the coaches. I improve the quality. I improve specific joint venture partnerships and the growth levers and being on stages, being on podcasts. That has become more writing the first book about the method, which just came out, Strategy Sprint.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think it's a great model and probably an aspiration for many people that are becoming entrepreneurs and selling their services rather than working in the client side. So in your book and in your methodology, you talk a lot about agile. And we talk a lot about agile in marketing as well. And I feel that marketing is an agile discipline. We should be working and fail fast. But you're talking about doing it at a much higher level, a business strategy level. Tell us about that. Why does agile particularly fit what you're trying to do?
Everybody talks about agile, but how many people are agile right now?
Yeah, true.
So right now, if I ask listeners, okay, tell me the marketing numbers, sales numbers, and ops numbers of this week. So in marketing, how many people were on our website this week? What's the difference to the last 4 weeks moving average and to the 4 weeks before?
Yeah.
Why is that gap? Why is that plus 0.3% or that minus 0.3%? What is it? Is it strength of a process, of a person, of a product? So that is agile. Agile means you know right now what's going on in your reality. And you know it fast enough so that you can respond to it.
Right.
Not react means it's over and you just have to cope with it.
Yeah.
It's respond. You still can do something about it and shape the outcome. So that's agility. And the same thing with the sales number. How many sales conversations did we have this week? How many did we convert? How many follow-ups open, follow-ups done?
Right.
Operations. How many client referrals did we get this week? How many pissed off clients do we have? How many did we turn into a magic moment, into a super fan because we implemented what was pissing them off in the first 4 hours?
Yeah. And I think this is really important, isn't it, these days? I mean, I work in B2B tech mainly, and we mostly work, and nowadays most of that is SaaS, right? So if you've got software as a service, then it doesn't work for you to do this on a monthly or 3 monthly basis, right? You've got to be constantly reviewing what's happening with churn and what's,
In software, is so important, the churn rate. How many people are you losing from your current cohort?
Yeah.
And it's a huge difference if you have 7% or 6.3%. Now, that sounds like a small difference, right? Oh, what is it? 7%, 6.3. Well, I can run you through the numbers. It's a huge difference. And especially if you see it after a month, it means you have lost 4 sprints. You have lost 4 weeks' time to respond to that.
Yeah.
Because you need to find out why are they hopping off.
Yep.
What can we do? Do we improve the button, the copy, the colors, the images, the landing page, the sales material, the email, the call to action button on the email? You see how many options to improve that.
Yeah.
And you want to try 2 or 3 of those solutions per week. So you need to know it early. You need to test different solutions, and then you get a grip on it. Same thing with, you have probably some taster, a free trial. How many people are opting into the free trial? How many people are really converting? Same thing. 8, 9 things to optimize there. And you don't want to start optimizing after a month because it's quite late. Now you have lost a couple percentage people to your competitors. Get them back is hard. So you better work every week on improving the experience and making wow moments so they stick around longer. You have a higher retainment, lower cost of acquisition, These are the things we focus on with our clients.
Yeah, and I totally get that with churn, because like you say, you can find yourself a quarter behind on your numbers in no time, just with a fairly low change in churn rate, increase in churn rate. So you're recommending here that people look at this stuff on a weekly basis, right? This discipline, this agile discipline you have, those dashboards are happening weekly, right?
The dashboard is in real time, always updated. It's so simple. It's just 3 numbers: marketing numbers, ops numbers, sales numbers.
Yeah.
So it's in real time, and the whole team has access to it and reports into it, updated.
Right.
But every 7 days, we come together as a whole team, independently of the size of your business.
Yeah.
All departments look at it. So we think business as being marketing department, sales department, and ops department. That's it.
Yeah.
We simplify it to these 3 basic activities. Yeah. There is always one person in charge, and there is always a real-time report about what's going on right now. And those come together in this dashboard, and every 7 days, we all reflect on it. Oh, this week, 0.7% increase in opt-ins on that page. Let's learn about it. Why? Was it the new copy, the new person, the new process, the new product? So what is working right now so that we double down on that? And where do we cut energy, attention, money from what's not working for the next week? So in each 7 days, we have small improvements. And if you just improve 1% per week, that's enough.
Right.
You only need to benchmark yourself, your team, against your last week. And have each number, marketing number, sales number, and ops number, increase by 1%. If you're doing that, you are resilient, you are agile, and you make sure that you're doing the right things at the right moment.
Right. And then you talked there about the main cohort there being marketing, sales, and operations that are checking out and looking at these dashboards and working this agile methodology. Do you find then that group, if you've got the CEO in that group, then presumably the rest of the organization also needs to be agile? So you find that sort of ripples out that because we're taking this agile strategy methodology at this high level, then everybody needs to fall into place with that. I mean, everything needs to be agile about the business.
Everything in nature is organized in fractals. It's the same on every so-called recursion level. So I'm looking from my window, I'm looking at a tree right now. The tree has the same structure as a whole thing. And if you zoom into the single parts of the trees, they have the same structure also there. This is why nature works. Since so many thousands of years. Because the structure is a fractal. Same thing with teams. There is no difference between the executive team and the VAs that work remotely for you in terms of how they structure their day and their reports and their outcomes. It's one team. It's one company, one mission, one client that you are serving. And so everything needs to be the same structure. So the meeting cadence is simple. There is a monthly strategy meeting. This is where you break down the 90 days, 3 goals, 3 numbers. You break them down into the monthly activities. It's 4 sprints. So you focus on 4 sprints. And every week you measure. That's the strategy sprints method. It's very simple, but it's fractal. And you can react quickly to stuff.
Right.
The only long-term planning is the 3 years vision. It's on 6 pages. That's very detailed. But there's nothing in between. No milestones, no interdependency analysis. That's a waste of time. You have 3 years vision, 90 days, 3 goals, 3 numbers, weekly focus. Who's doing that?
Nice. And what do you find is the biggest challenge there to getting that implemented? Because obviously, you've taken this sprint methodology, which started in product development, and now you're applying that to senior executives. Do you find that they're quickly on board with this? What do you think is the challenge that you have when you think like this or start talking like this with these sorts of people?
Well, the first thing that they hear is that it doubled revenue or it quadrupled revenue, and they come and say, "Wow, I want to double it." All right, let's go.
But how that's why they hired you, right?
It's quite a good promise, right? And so, and they go, "But how can we double?" It's simple. We just have to increase by 25% frequency of your sales, conversion rate of existing leads, and the price that you charge. We increase these 3 things by 25%. We have plus 99%. It's very simple. The only problem, and this is what 99% of you guys out there are doing, you are doing much more than that. So if you just run the activities, try it. Focus for 1 month only on the activities that increase by 25% your conversion rate, the frequency of your sales, and the price that you can charge for the same thing. You are doing much less. Your team is happier. You are done quicker during the day. You have more weekend. You have more life. You are happier. You look better. You are more fun to be around. You will have positive energy, and people want to throw money at you. Please take my money. No, I can't. Please take it. Wherever you are, things are getting better. Please take my money. I want this energy.
I love it. So that's and then we'll come back to your book in a second, but one of the things I did want to pick up with you on, because we've talked a bit about marketing, which is obviously one of my passions, but the other one is about content. And that you said that I noticed on LinkedIn, you said you need to regularly create stuff and put it in the world. Why do you think content is so important? I mean, you've talked there about analytics and growth and all that good stuff, but I mean, creating content, putting it into the world, why is that so important to you?
I think it goes back to the fractal principle. So you attract similar patterns.
Yeah.
If you go out there and are grumpy, you will get grumpy clients.
Right.
If you're joyful and playful, you will have joyful clients.
Yeah.
So how do they know? How do you attract? By putting stuff out there. Show your essence. Show your soul. I think this is really important, to show your soul. Now, I don't know what your definition of marketing is. Mine is showing your soul.
Nice.
Because I think it's about
trust, isn't it? It's about trust, and you got to show a bit of yourself to build trust.
Think of a painting of Salvador Dali. You see it from the far. There is no logo on it. You know this is a Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it, but you recognize it.
Yeah.
And the Dali people, they find each other. They are a tribe. They love it. They go with it. They would pay everything for it.
Yeah.
That's good marketing.
Yeah.
So you see it from the far. You don't need formal anything. You don't need even a logo. You know, oh, this is it. Yeah. That's a good marketing and also branding. When that works, the soul is shining through of what it is. Yeah. And then that attracts those couple people on the planet who need exactly that.
It's so well put. I love that. I love that idea about soul. And I also like the idea, I mean, I've picked this up from Seth Godin about talking about tribes and finding your tribe, and your content helps you find your tribe. It also helps you find the people that don't like you. Like you say, you know, some people don't like Salvador Dali. By the way, it sounds much better in your accent than mine, but some people don't like Salvador Dali. And those are the people you don't want to attract, right? So it's a great way of testing the market and who's in it for you. I love that. And then, so I said I'd move back onto your book. So you've written a book, Strategy Sprints. It's available on Kogan Page. Tell us a bit about two things: the process of writing the book, how you found writing the book. So I have a view that most of us want to write a book. So how did that go? And then just a little bit about why somebody should buy it.
Don't write a book.
I love it.
There are enough books. Nobody needs your book. There are too many books out there. Focus on solving real problems for real people. And if after 17 years of doing this, and you are swimming in millions and you don't know what to do, now share that in form of a book.
I love that. And so, having spent 17 years doing this and now swimming in millions, what are the key takeaways from Strategy Sprints that you'd like the readers to get if they were to pick it up?
The main thing is, how do you regain your time? Because most people, they are so much in the business that they need help getting to work on the business.
Right.
But how do you do it if you don't have time? Right?
Yeah.
So my mission was to distill those 17 years of doing exactly I was doing only this all the time in different countries, different industries, but it was always the same thing. How do we regain time to work on the business and use that to scale profitability, revenue?
Right.
So these tools, 274 tools that work, I said, okay, let's share them more with the world, because not everybody can afford a sprint coach. So, but $20, everybody has $20, and it's a screaming bargain. I think it was Seth Godin who said every book is a screaming bargain because you might find an idea worth $1 million.
Yeah,
that's this book. Well, that's the book, literally, because it has all my checklist, blueprints, the real things that I use. I have it here on my desk.
Yeah.
And in some months, when I have a bad marketing months, I go, why don't we get more subscribers on our newsletter? Let me check. Chapter 4. I jumped over this step. Because my way is, I always think I'm smarter because, I wrote it, so I think I can be smarter than it. I try to shortcut. I just jump over step 7, and then usually I get a lesson about that it's not working, and the subscribers are going down or slowing down. And then I literally use those checklists to get back on track.
I love the Vote for Marketing books. I mean, we're not on video, but behind both of us is a shelf of books. So I can see that you're a fan as well. All right. So I'm running out of time. Finally, I'm going to ask you our final question. We have a regular feature on the Rockstar CMO podcast called the Rockstar CMO Swimming Pool, our portal to marketing hell for all the overhyped trends, BS, and snake oil from this marketing industry we love. What would you like to see chucked into our swimming pool?
If you are doing less than $35,000 per month, repeatably, either in MRR or just monthly revenue, you should not spend 1 minute and $1 on marketing.
Wow, really?
Only operations and sales until you hit 35K every month. And then you start doing your first piece of marketing, writing something, content, podcast, whatever marketing is for you. Before that, focus on operations, make the experience so good that is your marketing. People going to other people and saying, this is great.
Right.
And sales, referrals, follow-ups, and really conversations with people who are 80% ready to buy, and close those people until you get to 35K. And then you are ready for scaling. When you have a good product and experience plus a good sales workflow, now you want to scale it. And that is what I call marketing. Now you show more of it to the whole world. You show your soul even more, and you scale the baby. But first, you need something scalable.
Yeah. So you're an advocate of product-led growth then initially, and then scale it with marketing once you've got to a certain point.
35K is where you have the marker telling you are done now with creating the product. Now you scale it.
I love that. I love the way you got a number for it. Anyway, I could talk to you all afternoon. This has been fascinating. Thank you very much, Simon. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, and if they want to have a chat with you, where are they going to find you?
I hang out at strategysprints.com. You can grab the book, Strategy Sprints, on Amazon. If you do, please leave an Amazon review. Amazon loves it.
Absolutely.
And I also hang out on YouTube. I have 2 channels where I share all the mistakes that I'm doing during the week. And one is called Simon Severino. One is called Strategy Sprints.
Splendid. And I recommend people connect with you. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much, Simon. And enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy playing in the garden or whatever it is you've got planned there in Vienna. And I hope to speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Keep rolling, everybody.
Cheers, Simon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Simon. Loads to take away from that conversation, and good to get a sales perspective. I will, of course, include all those links we discussed in the show notes. Right, it's Friday evening. Time to wind down in the Rockstar CMO virtual bar and find my friend and content marketing guru Robert Rose, chief troublemaker at the Content Advisory, for a cocktail and a marketing thought. Good evening, Robert. What are you drinking?
Oh, hello, my friend. It is good to see you in the bar, and it is a good end of the week because it has been a busy week. It has been a bit of it seems like everybody's wants to get back to work or something, and that's of course very troubling.
I think it's a crunch before the summer, because I'm finding the same, and you know what it's like in Europe trying to get any work done during the summer anyway.
Of course,
I think you're right. I think everybody's woken up, and I think there's a lot more in-person events that are happening. People are getting out. It just seems to be everything happening this month.
Yeah, it seems like everybody has decided that May is when I want to. The funny thing is that I'm finding is that May seems to be the month where everybody wants to set you upon a task, but then not really respond to you in a timely manner when said task is complete. So I'm finding a bit of a dichotomy there. In any event, I have a wonderful cocktail to share for a lovely Friday evening here, and so it is now. I am the worst at French, but it is the classic name for this cocktail is a boulevardier. And I know I just butchered the French there, but it is a wonderful. So it's a take, a sort of classic take on a Negroni. However, what we do is we swap gin. Because I know where I live and I know where I am. We swap gin for whiskey. And so it's a really interesting, instead of making with gin, we make it with whiskey. So if you can think of a Negroni but made with whiskey, this is what we're talking about here. And it gets this really cool red color to it, which is just absolutely beautiful. So it becomes a little bit of rye or bourbon whiskey, whichever is your preference there, a little sweet vermouth, and a little Campari. And the Campari, of course, helps give it that little bit of red color there. Boulevardier. And there we go. And that's our drink.
A boulevardier. And that sounds like a real thing. Interesting that the French would choose.
It does sound like a real thing. Because it is a real thing. It is actually a real thing. Yeah. I'm not just making that up. Yeah.
It just sounds. The French going for their whiskey is interesting, I think. So anyway, I'm going to start with some ice. Is that the right thing to do? I'm going to get some ice out of this blooming ice thing. And I, interestingly enough, as an alternative to what you just suggested, I'm going to swap the gin back in.
I see.
So I'm going for the most English of bourbons or ryes. I'm choosing Hendrick's Gin. They're still not sponsoring the show.
I don't know how many times we're going to have to shout out Hendrick's Gin before you get a case of it sent to your door.
I'd be lucky to get a bottle or half bottle or even a miniature at this rate. But anyway, next, and then you put in Campari and some sweet vermouth. So I've trusted the good people at Fever Tree to mix up my mixer. Again, not a sponsor. And I shall. It's very similar to Campari.
Yes, is it? Is it?
It isn't. Let me give this a taste. I'm not getting the beautiful red colour either for some mysterious reason. I'll give this a taste. That's delicious. I could drink one of these every week, Roberts. What do we call it? I thought
you might. Yeah, it's a lovely cocktail. It's a great after dinner cocktail, I find.
Yes, very nice. And we're calling that a
Boulevardier.
A Boulevardier. I should be drinking these Boulevardiers every week now, Robert, because I'm classy now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very nice. And while we're drinking these Boulevardiers, and I think we've got the pronunciation right, and I shall be asking for these in all the finest drinking dens in the whole of London. Whereabouts are we going to be drinking these?
Well, there's a place where I've always wanted to go and haven't been, and I wonder if you've been, which is, have you been to Cyprus?
I haven't. I've been to, well, that's contentious actually, because I've been to Turkey and Greece, so I'm sitting on both sides of the fence on that one.
Exactly. Yeah. So by proxy, you've been to Cyprus.
Yes, I've experienced one of the cultures. How's that?
Yes.
Yes. No, I've not been to Cyprus.
Yes. Well, that's where I want to go. And I don't know anything about it, so I'm not sure exactly, whether we should go to the Turkish side or the Greek side. Although, from what I understand, the southern coast is supposed to be just amazing. And so I think we should go find ourselves someplace on the beach in Cyprus, because I've been doing a bit of a photo tour of it, and it just absolutely looks spectacular, and the history and everything that's there seems just absolutely wonderful. So it is a place it's on my bucket list to go at some point, but finding some place just to sit in the afternoon in the cool Mediterranean breeze and just sip one of these things seems pretty good.
Yeah, and some really good olives probably, and some nice kebabs and stuff when we get hungry. Sounds great. I love it. So there we are, soaking up the race. We've solved all the geopolitical tensions in the area, and our thoughts turn to marketing. What are we going to discuss today, Robert?
Well, I think we're going to start and chat. I mean, not that this is the most relevant conversation that we would have on Cyprus when we're looking at the view that we're having, but if we must talk about something in marketing, let's talk about data for a moment.
Oh, exciting.
Because it's been a hot minute since we've talked about data. And, the interesting thing is I have come to the conclusion that we as marketers have oversold data. And here's what I mean by oversold it.
Yeah.
Which is, and you remember my old boss, you've met my old boss and knew my old boss well. And he honestly was one of the best salespeople I've ever known. He was just a great, it still is, I'm sure. He is now not doing that any longer, but he is, he's a fantastic sales guy. And what he knew so well was he could work a room. He knew just the right things to say to keep the interest peaked. And then most importantly, and he used to actually himself preach this, he knew exactly, and I mean exactly, when to get up and end the meeting and be out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just that key moment where, you basically know the sale is made, and so you get out as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And you've seen the opposite of this, which is, a salesperson who just doesn't know how to take yes for an answer. And there's a couple of consequences from being, the salesperson who just continually oversells something. First of all, and I've watched a sales guy actually talk himself out of a sale because he just continued to talk and talk and talk and talk. And finally he threw out some random comment about the roadmap of the product, and the customer went, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And eventually killed the sale. Yep. And then the second thing, which is almost as bad, is where the salesperson can't take yes for an answer and continues to offer more and more and more features and more benefits and more, it's like, stop already. They've said yes, but continues to offer more services, more, upgrades, more everything until the customer finally does say stop. And by then you set such unrealistic expectations that you're already set up to fail.
Yeah, I was, as you know, beginning my career, I was in pre-sales. So I've been sitting there wishing the sales guy would stop talking for that very reason, right? There is only going to be bad happen if you carry on moving your mouth.
I mean, it's that classic thing, right? Where the customer has said, yes, it sounds great. Let's, send me a contract. And the sales guy goes, great. And we can make sure that you get a discount, and we can make sure it's like, stop talking. Anyway, I think we've done exactly that second consequence with data as marketers, because the rallying cry that I hear today, and I've heard it, if I had a dollar for every time when I ask a big brand or a marketing team about their measurement strategy and they say we're data driven,
yes,
I'd be sipping a fancy tequila in Cyprus, right? Because when I find out what's really behind that statement, they are indeed literally data driven. In other words, they are driven by data. They're so awash in metrics and numbers and data. and it drives every single thing that they do. I mean, they literally can't make a move without looking to the data to say, oh, what does the data say?
Yeah.
And they also have relied so much on data that it becomes the excuse, the rationalization to support anything that they do.
Yeah.
What that does is two things. Is one, it's a CYA, it's a cover your ass kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it sells into the rest of the business, your colleagues, your boss, etc., that you don't make a move. You basically have oversold the use of data to the point where they won't really agree on you doing anything new without data proving it.
Yeah.
And basically it puts up this wall where somebody comes in with this brilliant idea that they've come up with on the commute into the office or, in the shower, or, they come up with this amazingly creative idea, and somebody goes, okay, that's really neat and creative and all, but what does the data say?
Yeah.
And by the way, the data can't say anything, because if the idea is truly innovative, it means it's new and it hasn't been done before, and therefore there is no data on it. And so what we do then, because we're quote unquote data driven, is we go out and we try and find the, corollaries, right? The best case studies of somebody who's done this before to try and build that business case.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask yourself, well, if you can find some business cases of somebody who's done this before, then is it really innovative?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times, does it need to have been done before it stops becoming an innovative thing? Yeah. And so ultimately what I find is that, as I like to say, data should ride shotgun. Shouldn't drive.
Yeah.
And the idea of data is we have to start from a different way and reframe this idea of how we're going to use data. So data in retrospect, like, did this campaign perform, and did this thing that we did do well and all? Yes, it has a place. Those are table stakes. But if we don't reframe the use of data and start saying, here's something new we want to do, here's the objective, and now let's come up with great questions that we have about that new thing. And one of the answers may be, we don't know if it's going to be successful because we've not done it before. That has to be part of our overall measurement and data strategy. Else we will basically run down the road of mediocrity if we continue to be driven by always moving everything to the up and the right and ensuring that all we can do is incrementally do a slightly better or slightly worse than we did before.
Yeah, I love this point. And I think Prof G used to, I know you listen to his podcast as well. I know he didn't invent this expression, but when you were talking about people going out and finding data to support their innovative new idea, he talks about data can be like a lamppost to a drunk person. They're using it for support rather than illumination. Yeah, because I listen to podcasts while I'm walking, and sometimes I have to stop and write a note, and that was one of those things. And I think that's what happens, isn't it? It's like, I really want to do this thing, so then I go and search for the data. You're already,
that's right.
You're already skewing the results before you even got there, right?
We basically treat it like it's Jeopardy, right?
Yeah.
Where we're looking for an answer that we form in the form of a question. And
And I also the idea of the idea of finding the data on doing something innovative, and then if you find the data, it's no longer innovative. It's excellent. Yes. It's excellent, right? So, and also the way I look at this as well, because I think what's been lost a little bit in marketing is that it's you're actually hedging, right? So you should have a number of these initiatives happening, some of which are surefire things and they'll support you with your standard stuff. But you have to have a couple of these projects going that you're not actually sure whether they're going to have a return, right? And the fact that you know that is good enough data. Do you see what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's well said, because that's exactly what I find as well, which is knowing what you don't know is also important and probably more important. And because, just exactly to your point, we should not only have a few things going where we don't know if it's going to be successful, we should probably have a few things going where we're pretty sure they're not going to be successful. because, you know, I used to do this at the beginning of workshops, and still do on occasion. Once I get back in person with people, it'll be fun to sort of resurrect this little exercise. But it's one you can do with your team, which is you ask the team. There's 3 questions. You say, you know, should a company be innovative? And of course, 90% of the people will nod their head. And then you go, great. Have we ever been innovative? And, you know, somebody will raise their hand and go, well, you mean like ever, or like in the last 2 weeks? And it's like, no, ever. Have we ever been innovative? Yeah. And, you know, again, most people will probably nod, and something, you know, you may get, you know, depending on your company, of course, you may get your mileage may vary on that. Yeah. But then you ask the people who nodded, you say, okay, great. When were we innovative? Yeah. And this is the part that gets me is 9.9 times out of 10, when you say when we've been innovative, somebody will say something successful. Yeah. Like nobody wants to be the dope that said, oh, we did this innovative thing and fell flat on our face. Yeah. Yeah. And so we have to be able to do that. Like I want to be able to say, tried this innovative, very cool thing, and it didn't work, but we learned, or this, or, you know, or we didn't learn anything. We just tried it because it was silly and stupid, and we tried to do it, and it just didn't work. And if we don't do those things, you know, it inevitably, the things that really go viral, the things that really are the exponential success, are the things that the originators of things had no idea. Absolutely. Like nobody goes, oh, great, this Apple ad that we're going to create that's going to become the classic television ad that's ever going to exist. You know, this is going to be the thing that goes viral and creates cultural change in the entire planet. Yeah. And they didn't do that. They were just making an ad, the best ad that they could make, and they were trying to do something cool and interesting and innovative, and that's how it turned out. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And also you said, well said to me. So then I immediately need to conclude on this point. So that's excellent. Thank you very much, Robert. And when people are looking for similar thoughts that are incredibly not data-led, where might they find those written by you? I am the quintessential living example, because my website is definitely not data-driven at all. And you can find that at contentadvisory.net. Fantastic. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where are you hanging out these days, Robert? That would be the algorithmic-driven platforms of Twitter. Of course, that is a whole other thing we could talk about, is the Twitter. And then on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn. It's always great there. Splendid. Yes, I think the Twitter is being done by everybody at the moment. So I think All right, mate. And most importantly, will you be in the bar next week? Apparently, that's the rumor, yes. I look forward to it. Thanks, mate. I'll see you then. Cheers. Thank you, Robert. Data is always a popular topic, but have we as marketers overplayed our hand there? Very interesting chat. So, that's a wrap on episode 115 of the Rockstar CMO Effing Marketing Podcast. I've been your host, Ian Truscott. Thanks again to Jeff, Simon and Robert for sharing their insight. Please say hello to them. I'll include all the guest links in the show notes, which you can find on your favourite podcast app or at rockstarcmo.fm, where you can also find all our previous episodes. And finally, thank you for dropping a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. So, does the world need another effing marketing podcast? Let us know on the socials, or drop a rating or review in your favourite podcast app, or just keep listening. I'm glad you're here. Next week, Jeff and Robert will be back, and my guest will be Harry Morton, a fascinating chap and founder of Lower Street, a podcast production agency. Until then, have a great week, and I hope you'll join us again here next week on Rockstar CMO FM.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.